Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. This is Michael, KE4EST. And today I want to do a quick video on these NeoPixels, or pixel strips, or these little pixel LEDs. This one here particularly is the, zoom in a little bit here on it. And this one here is the WS2812. So this one here, each individual LED can be controlled individually. I can have this one red, this one off, this one purple, so on and so forth. And you can also adjust the brightness of each one individually. So I have this one full bright red, this one a really dim red, this one a bright blue, this one a dim purple over here. All at the same time whenever I want to. And run it back and forth and different things you can do with these. These are really neat. So if you've probably seen these, like, man, I'd kind of like to set up something like that. Well, they're not that hard. And what I want to show you here is how easy it is to get it going. If you've already got the Arduino IDE, you're familiar with that a little bit, so you're not great at it, you don't sit and write code all day with it, and you've not made some super deep code that's made really cool projects yet or whatever, but you're familiar with it enough. You've played around with the Blink program, you've done a few little things, and you see those and like, wow, that looks pretty neat, and I've seen people do those. You can go download a library, install the library, it's got examples, and the way you go with it, it's pretty simple. With this one here, I've got a nano set up. This is one I just pulled straight out of the pack. I've got several of these, so I just pulled this one out, soldered some pins on it, stuck it in this board here. I have been experimenting doing this with the Teensy 4.0, and that's another thing too. When you set these up, if you can use a Uno, a Nano, a Mega. Of course, Mega's way overkill, way more pins than what you need, because you see here I've only got one pin. This here is a ground. I'm tying the grounds back together. This here is just you got a single pin feeding it, because it's serial data that comes out and feeds into the strip. But you can use a Uno, a Nano, Mega, and that'll be just fine. Just hook it straight up and away you go. Now if you want to go with something like one of the Arduino Duo or some of the other boards, 101s, or something that's 3.3 volt, then you need to use level converters. It's highly recommended anyway. I've got away with it for experimenting, but I wouldn't want to permanently make a project and close it all up and use it with just straight wired. You need to have level converters. So I mean, you need to use the Teensies, like I said, and use the ESP32, whatever you have or whatever you're familiar with. You can even use these things, pick chips. You say, well, Arduino, it's whatever. If you're familiar with pick chips and you're good at programming them and you can do all that, by all means use those. There's libraries for that too, you can set up and use. There's libraries out there for the Raspberry Pi. If you want to use the SBC, there's several different ones you can use with different single board computers. So a lot of it's pretty much plug and play, if you go with this route. So whatever you have around, say Arduino, Uno, or Nano, or whatever, you come off one of the data pins, and this here's, let me find the other end here. This here's just to feed power to your 5 volts, and this here's also 5 volts and feed back into your. They use white in this one instead of black for ground, but the feedback to feed your microcontroller board. And this green wire and this one here, they make different colors and different ones, but this here's your data pin. So you got power and you got a data pin, and that's pretty much it. And I've got that wired up over here. You can see it's wired up, and I've got it hooked up to just a old power supply that I have laying around from my computer power supply. Of course, you can do that if you wire everything up right, and you can say it's got the wires just twisted here for on the bench. I wouldn't want to leave it like that either, of course, but you can get power adapters. It puts out 5 volts. It's designed for these, and everything will plug right in here to this little plug here. But now, like these here, like what I've got on the bench, I've got it all sprawled out here. This is a 300 LED, 300 pixel strip, and it's going to pull a lot of power. These things, each individual pixel will pull at bright white about 60 milliamps. So you can do the math on 300 of them. Yeah, that's 18 amps. So it can be real hard on them, and so it's highly recommended. This pigtail they've got out here, you hook that up on both ends, especially on this one. Now, I'll show you later on the video. I've only got one end hooked up, and you'll see what happens when you only have one end hooked up when you go to bright white or something. But you normally ain't going to have this set up with every pixel set for bright white. I mean, and that's all you're going to do with it. You have to set it up appropriately for that if you want some lighting or something. But if you're wanting this for Christmas or whatever, it's that time of year, so I've been messing with this. I've been doing this for a few years, playing with different ones of them. And this year I got this one here, setting up for the kids and stuff, and make neat different patterns and things from the ooh and ah over. So you're gonna not normally have them all just bam, all bright white at one time. So anyway, that's how it's set up. I've got a resistor here in line, and to limit current, but there's going to be still a whole lot of current, so it don't have to be a very big resistor. This is a 1/4 watt, and then I've got a capacitor here across the power leads, because when say they're off, and then when you turn them all on, it's going to be a sag, it's going to be a pull, a real quick jump, because these things can be just jumping around different ways and doing different things, and the lights can go off and come on and go off, and it's going to pull on that. So it's a good idea to stick a capacitor in there. This is 1000 microfarad. I really need a bigger one for this setup with 300 LEDs, but that's what I've got stuck in here right now, because that's what I had on my other one. The one I use for testing, it's not quite as many LEDs, but it really needs to be a bigger one, but it'll work. Now let's go over to the computer, and I'll show you over here what I've got going on. Let's see, okay, this one here, you can see right here, this one here was made for Teensy. This one was, this library and this here was written by Paul over there at the Teensy forums, runs Teensy forums and developed the Teensy and all that. We won't worry about that one. Let's see. There's a couple different libraries out there that you can use. We'll start with this one here. This is Adafruit's NeoPixel library. And if you don't have it in there, you can go up here to Sketch. Well, I mean, you can go and download. You can search it, find where it's at, download it, install it. Or if you're not, handy with doing that, and say I'd rather kind of let it do it for me, just go down here where it says Include Library, Manage Libraries, and let this come up when it gets done indexing here. You can go right up here and type in Adafruit Neo. I should be able to, yeah. And you don't really have to finish typing it out, kind of like Google. And you can see right here it is, Adafruit NeoPixel. And you see mine says installed, but if it wasn't installed, it'd be something like this one here, and you just go over and click install, let it do its thing. And once it's installed, sometimes depending on what you're running, this will work on a Mac, it'll work on the Windows, work on Linux. I've actually took Raspberry Pis, I use those with the Arduino IDE on it, and program an Arduino board. Have one little tiny board sitting there and another tiny board sitting beside it. And, so you can, whatever you happen to have. Some of them, what I was going to say though, some of them will make you want to restart the Arduino IDE. But once that's done, you can go up here. I've already got it brought up. We go to File, Examples, and yours may look a little different than mine because I've got different things set up here, different things installed. It's like if you install stuff for ESP32, install stuff for Teensy, like up here is all the, well, it's here somewhere, but stuff for Teensy boards, whatever. Come down here to Examples for Custom Libraries, and you'll see it right here, Adafruit, NeoPixel. And there's some different examples they've got here, and the one I want to use is Strand Test right here. And it'll come up just like this. It'll say LED pin set for 6 and LED count set for 60. You'll want to change this number here to whatever you got. I'm going to leave mine for 60, on 60 right now, because even though I've got a strip of 300 of them, I can put it on 10. It'll only use the first 10. I can put it on 100 and I'll use 100 out of the 300 for whatever reason I wanted to. And here's where you set your pin up, and it's defaultly when it comes in it's set for 6, and that's what I've got mine hooked to. So we'll leave that on 6. This here you need to change, like I said. This here you may need to change where you're doing your stripped object at. If you don't understand all that, you know, that's a lot of more C++ stuff, but it's going into the library, and it'll kind of tell you here what's going on. And some of this you might have to change. There's 800 or 400, but up here where it says NEO_KHZ 800 may need to be changed to 400. Put a 4 right there. This GRB here I've got need to be, that's green, red, blue, may need to change to RGB. Or some of them, when you buy it, it'll say it's RGBW. These pixels have got 3 LEDs in them, and someone's got 4, an actual dedicated white LED, and that'll be what this is for. So anyway, so I've got this set up. It tells you up here about using a capacitor, and that's what I've actually got from my other one, because it was a small strip. But it really needs to be brought up on this one here, but it'll work. And about using a resistor, tells you right here about using level converters. So that's all you have to change. You just bring it up, and if you've got everything set up, and of course you'll have to go to Tools, and I've got mine set on Nano. And after you're using a Nano like me, and an older Nano you've had kicking around a while, you'll have to change to the old bootloader. If you're using one of those new Nanos that they're selling now, they started in I think last month or 2 they started selling those new Nanos. You'll have to go up to and tick this one here, and then mine's on COM 5. I don't say that, but I know what it is. So I've got that set up. So now what we got to do is upload it. Let's go back to the bench, and I'll kind of aim the camera like that. And let me turn this light off here. I'm going to upload it. There it goes. And there it goes. So this first strand test, this is going to, and you see I only got 60 pixels. Well, maybe you don't see it, but see how it stops there, and all the rest of these pixels, all these all wadded up here, going all the way around. They're not doing anything, but you can see how neat that is. Now if I go here and change this to 300, which is what I've got, we'll upload that. And there she goes. And it's going to go all the way around and eventually come on over here. And then it's going to go back with green, and it's going to go blue, and it's going to do all that other little neat things you've seen. That's one reason I stopped at 60, because it takes it a few minutes. Of course, you can go in and change. We go back over here to the computer. You can change like this 50 here, this 50 milliseconds. You could drop that to 0 and it really speed it up. But you can see what it's doing here. Color wipe. It's calling color, and it's set for 25500 with 50, and that's going to come down here to this, put that in, and do it. And we go back to the bench here. You can see it's going through its different little things there, which is pretty neat. Okay, let's go back to the computer here, and I'm going to show you another one I really like. Which one do we want to do? Let's do this one. Okay. So, this one is, I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that, but it's Pololuled LED strip. This one, I'm not sure if you can grab it. Some of these, you know, some libraries you can't just go and search them, and manage libraries you'll have to get it installed yourself, but I can leave the link for it below. I'm not sure if you can get it that way. I know I didn't get it that way initially, but I've had it for about 3 years. But this one's just a different library, set up different. You know, sometimes somebody might make it's like somebody might make one car and make a better car, and this car works better than that car, or this cell phone works better than that cell phone, or whatever. This one, I think, is done a little bit better in my opinion. The library set up better. And this one defaultly is 12. And now you can see I've changed this to a 6 already. Get ready for the video. And I don't have this hooked up. You can hook up, if you want to go straight from this example, you can hook up pin 2 through a switch to ground to just bump through the different patterns it's going to run through, or 3 for auto cycle. So what I'm going to do is, I've got this changed here to 300, and that's pretty much what you got to do there. And you can see it's going to run through some things here. And this is just and it's pretty detailed too. Somebody took some time on this one. So let's go back up. I'm going to upload this one. So let's go back to the bench. You can still see the Adafruit over here still running, doing its thing, but let's go ahead and hit this one and upload it. And there it goes. And you'll see this one here is pretty neat right out of the, you want to say right out of the box. But you can see right here I got a bad pixel. You can see this little blue, it's supposed to be white shimmering, but it's doing its own little weird thing there. Instead of pink, it's blue. But you can see this one's going through it. This one's called LED strip Xmas or Christmas. And you can see it's going through its thing here, different patterns. And it's got some pretty neat ones. But the neat thing about this is, once you get it set up and working, okay, it's working. It's doing its thing. I see it. I've got it. Well, this is neat. Then you can go back to the computer and start modifying it, start changing it. Or just get what you need from the, you know, include the different libraries and things, kind of get your header set up, get your setup, everything set up, you know, in the headers, and you include some defines and all that. If you can kind of copy that over from the example and go in your setup function, get all that stuff to get everything working like it's supposed to. And then you can just come up with your own ideas. You can have one LED just zip back and forth, you know, have your for loop, and have 2 and have 3 and have 7, or have different colors on one end, run on the other end, or different, you know, just, and different, of course, different intensities. So then your imagination is, you know, it's left to your imagination. I've sat here for days, and well, not days straight, but you know, off and on, just thinking of something. And you know what, I bet I could take those and do this, that, or the other, and whatever, and go, yeah, I can do that, and sit there and get it programmed up, upload it, and go, wow, that's neat. So I just want to show you how, you know, just plug this in, hook it up, get you a power supply, make sure it's a proper power supply. If you got a microcontroller board, it's 3.3 volt, make sure you're using level converters, and of course you got to make sure you're feeding 5 volts to the strip. But this right here, everything you're seeing right here comes straight out of the library and the examples. I didn't modify any of this. I've done some that's pretty neat, But this here I didn't do. This is straight out of the library. It's almost plug and play, you know. So anyway, there you have it. I think that's pretty much covered. I covered everything. If you have any questions or comments, just post them below, and I will get to them as I can. Try to answer them. But I hope this helps somebody out and lets somebody see, oh, this is not that hard. It's kind of, yeah, that's pretty easy. And then, you know, you want to tidy all this mess up here, put it in a nice little project box, and feed your power supply to it and feed your strip to it, and then you can wow your kids or your significant other or your friends or whatever, and they say, well, you did that? I say, yeah, man, I did that, man. This is what you can do with this stuff. Instead of sitting around watching soap operas all day or sitcoms, man, I'm sitting here doing this cool stuff. Anyway, if it helps you out, just give me a like there. If you have any comments, put them below. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And until the next one, this is Michael, KE4EST 73.